Now on BBC One Northern Ireland, wherever you are, watch out. Anderson's about.
Welcome to Anderson on the Road. What better could a man do on a lovely day like this than jump stiffly off a boat, walk down the pier onto Oxford Island, and not alone that, be drummed ashore by members of the Gerry Anderson Pipe Band. Now, as every schoolboy knows, Oxford Island is on the shores of Lough Neagh. Now, this concerns you because the waters of Lough Neagh lap the shores of 5 of Ulster's 6 counties, except for Man, of course, but they don't care about that because they have enough lakes of their own. But look at this. It's a lovely day. We've got wonderful scenery, lovely environment, wildfowl. What more can a person want? The only other thing a person could want would be a shake to stick something at, and music not only from the Gerry Anderson Band, but also from a group of musicians pulled together by the BBC at the last moment. They're called the Munchies. That's the Munchies. Were they very good? Go on, clap. For God's sake. I think the current expression is keep her lit. Angela Lavin, what a lovely day.
Hello, indeed, yes, beautiful.
What a good day to be a conservation officer.
That's right, indeed. Out and about in the reserve, nothing could be better a day like this.
Tell me about this place, about the flora and fauna.
Yes, indeed. We have lots of wildflower meadows. We've got 4 miles of footpaths for you to enjoy, woodland walks, butterfly gardens, you name it, we have it here.
I hear tales about a strange fly that inhabits these parts.
Yes, indeed. At various times throughout the year, but generally around April and May, we have a hatch of what we call the Lough Neagh fly.
Now, the Lough Neagh fly is weird because it doesn't bite you, but people are still a wee bit afraid of it.
That's right. The Lough Neagh fly, I would stress, is a non-biting midge, in fact, and is a collective name really for several different species of fly that you find flying around, but a very, very important fly to us. Because
and flies do enjoy flying around.
Indeed.
But the Lough Neagh fly, I mean, you only get it here and somewhere in Iceland or somewhere like that.
Here in Iceland and also other countries like, for example, Africa, but we have a special relationship with Iceland. We have formed a sister reserve in a place called Mývatn. Mývatn actually stands for the Lake of the Fly, being fly and that being lake. So
I read somewhere that these flies are made into hamburgers in certain parts of the world, and I hope you haven't got a piece of one.
No, indeed. We don't serve those up at the Lochside Cafe. But what in Lake Victoria, for example, in Africa, they have a special celebration around the main time of the hatch. So, for example, they would have Festival of the Fly, and they serve up flies as part of the local specialities and local dishes.
Well, I think I'll just pass on that. Thank you very much. Jim Bradley, you're a man in charge of the Lough Neagh Discovery Centre here. Tell me what you're doing there.
Right. What we have at the Discovery Centre is an exhibition with audiovisual shows, computer, touchscreen rooms, interactive displays, all trying to tell the story of Lough Neagh, this wonderful natural resource that we have here.
I can't get over how beautiful this is. You know, up until a couple of days ago, I'd never been here. It's just amazing. Of course, the weather makes it, but I mean, when you come here, I've never seen anything as nice as this.
Right. Well, we've had about 250,000 visitors to Oxford Island in the last couple of years.
Not surprised. Is admission free?
Yes, admission to the reserve is free. You can go into the Discovery Centre, the exhibition. There's a charge for the exhibition only, but it's well worth going around the exhibition so you can really enjoy what's actually out at Oxford Island and to go travel around the loch as well.
And what are your duties? And are you just in charge of the centre or what?
Well, there's also a craft and gift shop to look after. There's lots of events. There's the Lochside Cafe with its views over the loch. Okay. And we've got quite a range of events. For instance, the Irish Bird Watching Fair will be holding in September.
Speaking of birds, actually, I was down here a couple of days ago, as you well know, and I went out to Pageant Island. A gentleman, the warden of Lough Neagh, took me out to Pageant Island to show me the birds. Stephen Foster and I went out a little trip. Oh, it's lovely sight, isn't it? Look at that little fella there. Now, what's he or what's she?
This is a little black-headed gull chick, not long out of its egg, just hatched, still very small. If you look very closely, just at the tip of his beak, you can see like a little white nail. That's the little egg tooth.
That's right, the egg tooth.
It uses that to hack its way through the eggshell, and that'll drop off after it grows a little bit. It'll drop off.
This is a totally wild environment here. People don't think, when you think of a place like this, it occurred to me, I was surprised to see a lot of dead birds' bodies, but then again, they're not going to bury their dead, are they?
No, they are not, and in a colony this size, absolutely thousands of birds, so you've got to expect that a few are going to get sick, or the parents can't find enough young for the chicks and so on, or you could get a spell of bad weather, could maybe kill a few as well, heavy rain, maybe getting the chicks wet and cold. You can see that as the bird flew off there just as we came up, and she's actually spread her droppings over the eggs. Now that's deliberate. She's discouraging predators, so if an animal came along to eat those eggs, it would take a sniff at it and think, no thanks, don't fancy that.
And she just did that?
Maybe leave the eggs alone then, and then she can come back and get back onto her nest and incubate the eggs and hopefully get her chicks out onto the loch.
She just did that when she saw us coming?
She did, yes. Just on takeoff, as it were.
All right, then.
Left a little message for us.
What kind of variety of birds have you got here?
Well, there's several thousand black-headed gulls wheeling about the skies above us. In among them then are the rarer common terns. They might be called common, but there isn't that many of them nest in this country. And we hold we hold 7% of the Irish population nest on Lough Neagh. And they like to nest in amongst the black-headed gulls. The gulls help them protect their nest from any predators, any large gulls or crows or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the islands, of course, are very important because they're away from the mainland. There's no foxes or anything like that.
There's no rats, no anything like that. Maybe
there are a few rats, but hopefully the winter floods and so on help to take care of them a bit.
You wouldn't come here often, would you? I mean, there's
no, we try and keep our visits to an absolute minimum so that the wildlife's left alone and isn't disturbed.
So what do we have down here?
Well, it's the middle of the breeding season, Gerry, so lots of birds are rearing their young, and very fortunate at the minute to get really lovely views of a family of coot. The parent bird's diving away there, pulling up weed from the bottom of the loch to take it across then to the chick.
A great way to receive it.
Indeed, yes. And then a coot's a vegetarian, but a lot of birds at this time of year supplement their diet with the little flies that are sitting on the surface. You might see some of the chicks picking at those, and they provide lots of protein for the growing youngsters.
It's nice up here, isn't it? I mean, it's not just looking at the birds. You can see why people enjoy bird watching. It's peaceful, isn't it?
Oh, it can be really relaxing just to sit in the hide like this quietly and just watch everything that's going on about you.
The local crafts. That's a very peaceful little thing that night. Now, Melvin, you're a man who knows a thing or two about the loch here. I do believe. Now, Oxford Island isn't really an island, but there was a time it was an island. Men like you, a long time ago, lowered the lake.
Yes, way back in the 1840s, the first scheme was done on the lower ban, which reduced the level by about 6 feet.
And before that, apparently, around about before the 1930s, it used to flood so badly that people used to walk around here on stilts.
Apparently so. Oxford Island would have been literally at times a very high-flowing island.
Now, can I just ask you a very simple question? Now, this is more of an inland sea than a lake. It's huge. How do you go about lowering the Loch Ness 10 feet? Where do you start? I mean, do you start here?
No, you start at the bottom end at Coleraine.
Of course.
And those schemes, earlier schemes, were massive rock removal, regrading and widening of channels, and putting in weirs to control the flow.
Well, do you have locks now? I mean, do you still, to this day, control the level of the loch?
Yes, we do.
It doesn't just kind of sit there.
No, the principal gates are at Tomb.
Yeah.
And those are operated manually, and they are worked by telemetry. We check the level each day, and we operate it accordingly in the interest of everyone.
Okay, Melvin. Now, the lake has been lowered, obviously. There's a man here, Andrew Durant. Come on around here a minute. Now, you're a paleontologist. So whenever a loch is lowered, you're there like a streak, aren't you? Because
absolutely,
it's all exposed there. What did you find there?
Well, in recent years, it's been very hard to find anything at all because you can see there's so many trees and cows and pastures and things. But in the past, we found a lot of things to do with the ancient history of the lake. Now,
what's that?
Here we have a large piece of fossil wood. This is about 30 million years old, so this is really old.
I mean, fossil wood is actually stone, isn't it? I mean,
it is, yes. It's completely changed to stone, this one.
Yeah.
And this comes from a sequoia tree.
Really?
So the climate of back about 30 million years ago would have been rather like today, or Southern California, you know, big redwoods all over the place.
It's like Southern California. What kind of animals would have scratched themselves up against that?
I wish I knew. We don't have any bones of the creatures that lived at the same time as these trees.
You have this?
Yep.
You have this? What's this here?
Well, this is from much later on. This is a mammoth tooth.
A mammoth tooth?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It
you
is,
get that mammoth tooth? Very rarely you get one here. Is that a big one or a...
Well, this is one of the teeth from the top of the jaw, so it's a smaller tooth. That's the way up, yep. From quite a small mammoth, really, but we have some much larger ones.
How big do they get?
At least twice this size.
So the mammoth roamed Ulster?
Yes, about 12,000 years ago. And these are a bit older, about 70,000 years ago, but who cares really?
How old is, silly question, how old is the lake, the loch?
Well, the loch, the fossil wood actually comes from an old lake deposit that was here then. So the loch is at least 30 million years old. And has probably been around in one form or another ever since.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm very enthralled with a mammoth tooth. I rarely see one. It hasn't eaten a lot, really, has it?
It's worn down to a nice smooth surface, but these were sort of eating all sorts of grass and things growing around the loch. You can almost imagine them during the winter wandering around the shores, can't you?
You can, yeah. I don't think I'll imagine that very much longer. But as always, sir, when you get fluctuating levels, you get things called lochs. Now, we went up to see, Moneypenny's loch, and a man called Philip Wilson, he's the council curator, he told us all about it.
Moneypenny's Lock on the Newry to Portadown Canal is one of the most significant historical sites in canal history in the whole of the British Isles. In 1742, the boats coming from the County Tyrone collieries with coal for the city of Dublin passed through here, making these the first locks to be used in the whole of these islands. The tollkeeper here collected the money for boats going through to Newry, and also he repaired sails for boats travelling towards the loch because horses could no longer be used after this point. The barges had either to be sailed or indeed poled the 7 miles down to Lough Neagh, and then they sailed across the loch. Today, Moneypenny's Lockhouse and Stables is a small museum and interpretive centre. It's an absolutely beautiful location. Plans are afoot to restore the Newry Canal, and wouldn't it be nice if, in the not too distant future, we can approach Moneypenny's once again by water.
Oh, bonny Portmore, how shining we stand, and the more I think on you, the more I think wrong. If I had you now, as I had once before, all the lords in old England would not purchase Portmore. Oh, bonny Portmore, I am sorry to see such a woeful destruction of your ornamentry. For it stood on your shore for many's a long day, till the long boat's brown man drowned, came to float it away. All the birds in the forest they bitterly weep, saying, where will we shelter, where will we sleep? For the oak and the ash, they are all cut and down, and the walls of bonny Portmore are all down to the ground. Oh, bonny Portmore, how sad where we stand, and the more I think on you, the more I think wrong. If I had you now as I had once before, all the lords of old England would not purchase Portmore.
Bridget and Eden, Carol Kelly, how are you doing? Bridget, you're not just a singer, you're the assistant warder in Lough Neagh.
I am indeed the assistant warden of Lough Neagh.
Now, you've a lot of things to tell me about that, but first of all, why that song?
Well, we chose that song. It's a very old song, and it talks about Portmore Lough, which is very near to the shores of Lough Neagh. And it talks about the destruction of the forests and the trees all around Portmore Lough. And it's quite a happy story because it's actually now a reserve of the RSPB.
Is that an old song?
It's a very old song, yes.
Is she environmentally conscious a long time ago?
Oh, very much so, yes, and laments the loss of a big oak tree.
Carol, you're a nurse.
That's right, a nurse teacher, Gerry.
Right. You're not involved as such in conservation, but what does this area mean to you?
Well, actually, my mother grew up on the shores of Lough Neagh, which is right across there.
Yeah.
And I have an aunt who lives around this region. When we were growing up, my mother would have taught us a lot of songs that were written about this particular region.
Yeah. Anybody who doesn't spend any time down here at this type of well is a fool, aren't they?
Sorry?
Anyone who doesn't spend any time down here is a fool.
Absolutely, and on a day like this, it's fantastic.
Bridget, let's take a wee walk up here. Now, about your work as assistant warden, I mean, I was out in Pageant Island.
That's right.
And I thought it was quite weird because I'd never been anywhere that was actually strictly, well, a nature reserve. It's nature red in tooth and claw, and it's almost a bit frightening, isn't it?
Yes, it's actually where you were in Pageant Island was sort of the wilderness, and we're very privileged in that we have such an insight into an area like that. We're really, as soon as you step onto Pageant Island, you're surrounded by just birds, breeding birds and their nests.
It's frightening, but isn't it?
It was kind of, I think it's kind of frightening when the birds start reeling above you and you're very aware that you're on their territory now.
Okay. So what kind of things do you do in your job?
Well, in the early part of the summer, we spend a lot of time monitoring the birds and keeping an eye on how well they're breeding. And then as the summer goes on, we would turn our attention more to the wildflowers and the rare species.
I think we might need a warden for these children.
I think so. They're crowding in on us like the birds.
So what else do you do?
Well, in the wintertime, we would spend a lot of time getting together our management plans and things like that. So summertime's a great time to be about, but we have to venture onto the loch every now and again. And
Watch it, that's no hardship. That's no hardship.
On the boat.
Bridget, here's a strange sight coming up here. There's a gentleman up here called Kieran Calhoun, and he's got a lot of strange, lovely wee animals. Kieran, how are you, sir?
Hey, Gerry, how you doing?
Rare Breeds, that's the name of your outfit?
Well, that's it. We're from Tannockmore Gardens, Rare Breeds Animal Farm, on the north side of Craigavon Lakes. And we've just brought a few animals here today with us.
I want to see your Transylvanian bare-necked thing. Bring it over.
This is it here.
Oh, I'm dying to see him.
This here's a Transylvanian naked neck chicken.
Can you get that neck there?
I'll just stretch it for you.
No, not too much.
There you can. As the story goes, this is where the story of Dracula came from, was the vampire bats. And Transylvania actually fed off naked neck hens, and so the story came from there.
Was in nature very convenient, leaving the neck bare for the vampire bat?
Well, you're right. I don't think it was very convenient for the naked neck, though.
I like it. I can strike a chord with it. Now, what have you got down here? Little bunnies here.
We've a few different bits and pieces. We've a few rabbits, just different types, a few lop-eareds, a few Californians, highball rabbits. We've also got...
There's a rabbit with no ears at all. Have you got... No, he's got ears stuck down there. Now, what about these wee chips?
Well, these are a few of the chicks that were brought out at Tannockmore in the incubator room. We've a few ducks, a few different bits and pieces.
Are the kids allowed to lift one?
Oh, yes.
Go and lift one and see what it's like. You see, now you have to put it back now. Don't be squeezing it. Don't be squeezing it. That's lovely. Now, you've got a special cow over here, which I want to see. Because apparently the cows that you get in Ireland now are big lumps. But years gone by, they were a little bit smaller.
Years ago, this would have been the cow your granny would have kept out in the back garden. These are the Dexter, the small miniature breed of cattle. They come in black, red, and a dun colour.
And that's a little calf. The big one is actually sitting down, so we can't see how small he is, if you understand. It's a bit Irish. But the calf is quite small, isn't it?
Yeah. They're normally about 38 to 40 inches high.
Did you tell me that this was a cow with kind of the Spanish blood in it?
Well, as the story goes, the Kerry cow, the Spanish Armada, shipwrecked ashore in Kerry, and the Spanish bulls swam ashore and bred with the Kerry cow. And as I say, this maybe was the outcome, but I don't know where that's true or not.
Oh, you can't keep bulls down. Now, here's the man I want to meet. Herbie the goat. Can we get round to Herbie here? Herbie's a very old goat. Look, of course he's on the wrong side. Herbie, can you attract his attention?
No,
bring him. Who's this young man? Herbie's going to... There he comes.
Young Lawrence, I'll get him up here.
Come over, Herbie. Now, there's something unusual about him. He's about 140 years old, isn't he?
Well, Herbie came from Coney Island. We're not sure how old he is.
He looks a little like Van Morrison.
Well, I think we could put the hat and the glasses on him.
Things like him. And he clicks when he moves because he's arthritic.
He's full of arthritis. He's near died on us about 6 times, but we managed to keep him going.
He's hanging in there.
He is.
I like the look of him. He reminds me of what I look like in a while.
We picked him up from Coney. He was in the water, and I thought he was the Loch Ness Monster at one stage.
Right. Now, we talked about legends. We were talking about the Transylvanian thingy poo. Now, there's some legends about here as well. I like the one how Loch Ness was formed, that Finn McCool lifted a handful of earth, threw it across the Irish Sea, and it landed in the middle and became the Isle of Man. I don't believe any of that carry on. But there's a man called Patsy Hagan. He's got the real story, and he told me.
This is a magical stretch of water here, and I know there's lots of theories about how it got to be here. The old folks, they would know a thing or two about that, but you've 1 or 2 theories of your own, haven't you?
Well, there's the age-old story about Finn McCool lifting the sod and firing it. which then became the Isle of Man. But the one I prefer, I heard it from an old fisherman in the east side of the loch. And I was standing talking to a group of fishermen one day. And this old man kept his distance from us, and he seemed to be unsociable. And he had his ear to the wind. It was a nice gentle breeze which was blowing. Then he came up to me and he said, son, he said, it's time you're heading to the west, home.
Right.
So I says, why? He says, there's a gale blowing. I says, how do you know? He says, it's coming on. He says, I was listening to the voices in the wind. I asked him, I says, what do you mean? He says, it's the people of the lost city are given a warning. So we went into the story about this city many hundreds of years ago, very much like any other city. Cobblestone streets, its shops, its schools, its church with a tall spire. But it had something special. It had a magic well. Now, there was no rules in this city because the people were that good, he told me. Except for one. The well was covered by a flat stone, and on the stone was a warning. This well must be covered at all times. So he told me that an old lady by the name of Sarah went to lift water one day, and when she was pulling up the bucket, she thought she heard a child crying. So she stopped and she listened, and she did hear a child crying. So she dropped the bucket and ran to the child's assistance. Now down below, in the city, the people were going about their normal day's work or whatever. And then someone looked and they saw the water trickling down the hill from the well, and they shouted, someone didn't cover the well. And there was panic, as you could imagine. And the men gathered round and they ran to the top of the hill, and try as they made, they couldn't push that stone over. The water kept building up and gushing up till slowly it started to cover these cobblestones and right up. The old man told me the city was covered. And I said, what about the people where they drowned? Oh no, says he, they're still there. He says, those people are still doing their good deeds to this very day. He says, if you listen hard into the wind, you'll hear them whisper. And now, old fishermen are very superstitious people. And there are still old men that listen into the wind for the whispering of the people of this lost city, warning them not to go out. Now, he even swore that on really hurricanes, bad gales, you could even see the top of the church spire in that city. Now, there is a saying, of course. I asked a simple question, the truth I only wish. Are all fishermen liars, or do liars only fish?
Right, that's the Derry Trasna Pipe Band who always score at the All-Ireland Championship. Now, this is Eamon Maguire. You work in Bog Oak. I think we can see at this moment one of your pieces of work. Where do you get this Bog Oak?
Well, it's all got locally around the area here.
You don't have to dive for it, do you?
No, it's all in the field. It's usually dug up by guys digging for turf.
And they let you know, they say, come down here, lift this out of Bog Oak here, boy.
We'll load it for you.
Now, how old is that stuff?
Well, it can be anything up to 9,000 years old, but some of it will be 5,000, 6,000 years old, and other pieces 9,000.
It must be very difficult to work with, must be very hard.
Well, usually you cut it when it's about a year old. You get it out of the ground a year, start cutting at it.
Well, how do you know when it's out a year? Of course, the man tells you. You see, I'm not a great expert in Bog Oak, you see.
Well,
and you've got those aren't shillelaghs at all, are they?
No, them's blackthorn sticks.
Blackthorn sticks, yeah, they're not Bog Oak.
Not at all, no. They're grown locally here.
And where can a man buy this stuff now?
In Brickfield Mill.
You see. There's the where to get it. Now, stepping over, I don't want to step on any of this stuff here, because a lady over here called Myra Burns, and she's got corn dollies. Now, I don't know what this is, but I think she's going to tell me. Myra, I know you're not a kind of a girl to be involved in ancient pagan fertility rituals, but this is basically what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's our ancestors would have done this as part of the harvest ritual, and you see the boys here are doing some rope twisting.
Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see the people there?
This will be referred to in the Breton law. It's about rope tethering. The harvest bows would have been made really as a shy man's affection of true love.
Yeah.
And if she liked him, she kept it, and if she didn't like him, she chucked it over the hedge.
Yeah.
And
There's only significance in blue thread and red thread. You've got different colours of ribbon here.
That's right. The red ribbon really would to be symbolised the blood sacrifice that would have been in early pagan times, because this was such an old skill, an old way of life, that people tend to think of crafts as being artistic purely.
Yeah.
But if you come to the Yahoo crafts in St Patrick's Tree, and then you will see
that
you
will see all of it revealed to you.
Yes, I know.
Now, you've got a little thing there. I happen to know that that's what's called a bumble cage.
That's right. These were for desperate mothers who couldn't settle their children at night, and they would capture a very soporific bumblebee. Excuse a sort of...
That's not a real one.
It's not a real one.
Right.
And they would put this inside the cage, and I'm making the lid for it. They would hinge the lid, and then once the child sort of got distracted, the child would fall asleep, and obviously this wouldn't be patented then, but a nice invention for a rural mother. A lot of rural traditions.
Yeah, isn't it funny how they were easily amused? Now they need the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
This is it.
Myra, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because funny enough, talking about bumble cages, I'm going to talk to a man whose life revolves around butterflies and moths. Trevor Boyd. Let me just run around here. Trevor, how long have you been studying butterflies?
Oh, I don't know. I'm 60 and I must have been studying it for 50 years. But, Gerry, I want to tell you something, and I don't have very long to do it. We had these traps out last night around this beautiful nature reserve, and we have hundreds of moths caught here, all different kinds.
Are they all in there at the moment?
Good number of them. And we are noting all these, and we have an atlas here, provisional atlas of butterflies, also moths, Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
We're contributing to a Millennium Atlas for the whole of the British Isles. We need reports from everybody, and we have them from 5 counties, but we've none from Derry.
None from Derry?
No, it's a bad thing now.
I'll be out tomorrow with a hat on.
Well done.
How many butterflies are you going to cover in this compendium? Millions?
30.
I mean, how many actual individual butterflies?
There's only 30 different kinds in Ireland.
Well, can we see what you've got in here?
Yeah, sure. Let's open this one up.
Okay, no, you open it. I'd be afraid to. Are some of them going to fly out?
Yes, they might fly out. But sure, isn't that all right? That's a poplar hawk moth there.
Can you see that hawk moth there?
A good one.
Seamus, can you see that hawk moth? There he goes, look.
And look, there's a burnished brass.
He's gone up your trousers. I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah. But look, Gerry, before you go. That's very special. Elephant hawk moth. Isn't that beautiful?
An elephant hawk moth.
Isn't that lovely?
Look at that, right. And you've got a few wrigglies in there, all right. The moths don't go out, actually, because they head for the moon, don't they?
And look at that. That's called the gold spot. Look at it.
Look at that, Seamus, eh?
If I took the lid off, could you see it better?
I think we possibly... Oh, that's a cracker, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Looks like a diamond ring.
We've got some lovely moths in this country.
Okay. Well, here, take this... take this individual here.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Now, there's people over here, William and Robert Downey. They've devoted, well, a good part of their life to preserving life, particularly... Oh, look at this. Roberta.
Yes.
Tell me what that is.
This is a European eagle owl.
What a magnificent... Look at the size of those eyes. They look like 50 pence pieces.
That's true.
What weight is that bird?
She's about 6 pound odds, plus, you know...
And fairly harmless?
Oh, she's harmless, certainly she is.
Uh-huh. And where did you get it?
Well, bought it really as a pet.
Uh-huh.
She's captive bred.
And you don't do this for any particular, you do it because you love it.
Just love.
You and this husband of yours.
Yes.
So how did you get involved in this? How did it start for you?
Well, it started off with one owl that was actually shot, and the vet patched it up and we brought it home, and it sort of mushroomed from that. But I have had possibly 40, 50 birds and released them back into the wild. But this is a tame bird that we have as a pet.
You feel very inferior when he stares you out, don't you?
You do indeed.
Now, that was him trying. Now, is he okay?
Yes, it's just...
He just does that.
He will come back up. It's just there's too many people actually around.
He's not used to crows. Woo! He's all right, though. He's not too upset. He wouldn't kind of go for me or anything like that. Right, tell him I was very pleased to meet him, and that maybe perhaps in better circumstances I'll come back to him. Now, there's some ladies over here called Anna McCrory and Deborah White. They're doing some very old-fashioned type stuff. Which one do you love?
I'm Anna.
Anna. Now, tell me, this is a traditional spinning.
It is, yes.
Now, where are you from and where do you do this?
I'm from Lurgan, but I actually work in the Irish Linen Centre in Lisburn.
Yeah.
And this has actually been shown in the museum as well, but we're out here to show all these interesting people the traditional way of spinning here down in Lough Neagh.
You see, it's not all Marks and Spencer. You used to do it like this.
Not. No.
And this is Deborah, is it? How you doing, love? And you're weaving.
I'm weaving. I'm weaving some beautiful material.
Yes. That is nice, isn't it? Would it be something I could wear maybe at some stage?
Well, if you're nice to me, I might weave you a suit. So I might...
Oh, a suit?
Yes,
It'd have to be fashionable. You don't know my measurements, though, I'm afraid.
Well, you can see me after.
Well, all right. Now, what kind of... What is that?
That's cotton. It's a cotton hank.
Yeah. Now, this machine here, now, it looks old, but it doesn't look old-fashioned, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's a traditional way of weaving by hand, using a hand shuttle, and it's a very, very slow and time-consuming process.
Yeah. How long do you think it would take to make me a suit?
Well, I could weave you one up in a couple of days, maybe, if I work very hard.
Couple of days, okay. I want a little cigarette. I want a little pocket in the middle for a packet of cigarettes. Okay. Thank you very much, girls. Weave away. Now, there's a man over here painting. Look, I nearly fell. How you doing, sir? Dermot, come round here till we see you. Right. You're a man who's been involved. You are very keen to paint in this particular area. Is this a painter's paradise?
Well, it is a painter's paradise today anyway, and it's a very nice place to paint, Gerry, because what I like about this area is the low horizons. And
well, you don't get the horizons much lower than you do here.
You don't.
And what's the light like here?
The light today is fantastic. Maybe a wee bit too strong today, but...
It is a bit strong, the sweats. The perspiration is running down my back. You also were involved in painting holidays.
That's right,
Now, that's the thing I haven't heard much about.
Well, I had the idea a couple of years ago to start to bring people into Northern Ireland for painting holidays, and I've set up courses in Armagh at the Palace Stables. And hopefully, if things turn out well there, it's all the signs have been successful, but we had a very good year last year. But this year has just been a wee bit more difficult to bring people.
Yeah, of course, especially over the last week or so, I imagine.
Right.
So people come in, but you don't see people sitting around painting. Where do they go?
Well, my idea is to bring them outside, get them out into it and paint it.
Get out and paint?
That's right. That's the only way to do it. I also run courses out in North Cyprus as well, in Portugal, so they've been very successful last year.
You travel the world?
I travel the
I'd be no
world.
good at that because I'm useless. I failed art miserably at school. I can't do that sort of thing. So this is your work in progress?
This is it in progress. Well, nearly finished now,
All right, well, batter away there.
I will indeed.
I'm going down to the old jetty here, and we shall view your work in progress and a little music.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Gerry.
Bye. Hello. Hello. Paddy Prunty.
Gerry.
Tell me about this lake, because I know you've got a problem. You're involved in rescue service, right? And you don't really get a lot of help, or indeed, can you get a lot of help from the Royal National Layton Institute, because they're only involved in seawater. So freshwater, they can't get involved.
That's right. Their constitution doesn't allow them to get involved, and that's why in 1989 we actually started the Lough Neagh Rescue Service after the tragic death of a young man called David Gray from Portadown.
Yeah.
So what we actually did was we raised and bought the first boat with David's father, called Bungie, it's just behind us here, and we started a lifeboat station here in Kinnigo and Lurgan. We have one in Arboe, which is called Arboe Rescue, and is the David Gray named after the father. And we have a third boat, which we call the Gerry Breen, which is our support vessel, so which we can bring out paramedics, firemen, etc. if anybody gets in trouble on the loch.
Now, I wouldn't imagine that people would think there's a terrible lot of danger out there, because they think, oh, it's a loch, what could happen? But I mean, that's a sea there, isn't it?
It's a big sea. It's also at the edge of the international airport. So there's a lot of traffic, a lot of commercial traffic. There's 200 fishing boats, fish commercially. We have 12 or 14 sand dredgers, and we have aircraft coming over every day. And there have been a lot of deaths on the loch up until this last few years, where Lough Neagh Rescue has managed to prevent quite a lot of incidents happening and occurring into serious incidents.
Okay, good, man. I know you have to run over there because you're going to play in the band.
That's right, I'm going to play a whistle for a wee while here.
Off you go, right. Right, I'm going to wander over here towards the people. Oh, hello. I believe you're an overseas visitor.
Well, actually, I'm a resident now, but I'm from the state of Rhode Island.
Yes.
And I've married a fellow from Northern Ireland. I've been living here 4.5 years.
Where's he from?
He is from originally Portadown, and we live in Lurgan, and so he's from Greater Craigavon.
Right, so you're from Rhode Island to Oxford Island.
Exactly. And where I live back at home, there's lots of boats and yachting, so I work here at the boat dealership, which is probably the largest one in Ireland.
Yeah.
And
are these children upsetting you?
they are.
Don't worry about it.
I'm getting a nice tickle from the back.
I know. I'm used to being tickled from the back. It's all right.
Right.
Enjoy the rest of your stay, and long may you stay here. And bring up children to me, little Ulster children. Okay. Where's Owen? There's a fisherman up here. Back, children, back. Where's Owen? Where's my fisherman? There he is. Let me in. Oh, look. Hello. Owen, you're a local fisherman. Now, you deal in eels and fish called pollen. Now, I believe you can't get pollen anywhere in the world, hardly, except here.
That's right.
Is that a pollen?
No, that's a roach, but
That's a roach. Show us a pollen. I wouldn't touch them. So this is a fish native to Lough Neagh that you can't get anywhere else.
That's right. You can't get it nowhere else.
Now, what does it look like?
It's supposed to be a fish the same as that in somewhere in Russia, but they say it's the same as a pollen, but...
I wouldn't believe that. It's kind of like it looks to me, I'm not a fish man, it looks like a small mackerel.
Like a saltwater herring, just the same.
But eels are your expertise, really, aren't they?
Oh,
how do you catch eels?
With a long line.
A very long line.
A long line on...
But your people don't eat them anymore.
Well, they do on the continent. They're big fish in the continent.
Do you export them?
Yeah.
To where?
The co-op at Townbridge, all onto the continent.
And you live on the lake here, don't you?
Yes, right.
You're a happy man.
Very happy.
Would you swap your life for £1 million for the lotto?
No way.
You're happy doing that? Mm-hmm. You see?
I wouldn't mind the £1 million, but I'm still happy.
You'll stay here. You'll take $1 million, but you'll stay here. Here's David Evans over here. He's a marine biologist. Can I just step in front of you? Excuse me for being rude, ladies and gentlemen. Right, you've got the pollen in your hand.
I've got the pollen, Jerry.
What kind of a funny wee fish is that?
They're they're called freshwater herring, but they're not. They're actually related to trout and salmon. And the pollen that's found in Lough Neagh here, its only relatives are in Siberia and in Alaska. And they are absolutely confined to here and to Lough Erne.
What do they taste like? Are they nice?
Well, they're fairly bland, like all freshwater fish. I mean, I would have preferred a saltwater fish all the time. You say I'm a marine biologist, but there's no salt in the loch here.
You shouldn't be here.
I shouldn't be here at all.
And I shouldn't be talking about eating fish anyway. You're talking about conservation, basically, really, aren't we?
Well, I mean, the fish here, when there's plenty of fish in the loch's healthy. The problem at the moment is there's a lot of pollution in the loch, and with the pollution, the fish are getting fewer, and it's getting harder and harder for people like Owen to make a living.
Okay, let me see one of those pollen. Anybody want a pollen to take home and cook tonight for your tea? Here, take that pollen. It's not very often a man gives you a fish, is it? You see me giving away fish? Now, this is an area of special scientific interest, isn't it? Could you explain that to me?
Well, this means that there's a great deal of wildlife here that makes it special. It's a mecca for wildlife. You have birds, you have fish, you have the things the fish feed on, the midges particularly, and midge larvae. You can get up to 5,000 of them in 1 square metre of the bottom. Now, we all know the swarms of midges you get around the loch, but that is the food that the whole magic system of the loch's based on.
Yeah, there's a lot of midges around here, but they don't bite me for some strange reason.
They're not biting midges. There's two sorts of midges. There are biting midges and non-biting midges. And most of the midges we get here are non-biting midges.
Now, we talked about the Loch Ness fly earlier. I still can't understand it. Is it a midge or is it a fly or what is it?
It is actually a midge. It's a true midge. All a midge is a small fly.
I saw a few swans earlier on and little ugly ducklings, little cygnets. Many of them around here.
There's a lot of birds around. There's a lot of wildfowl. And in the winter particularly, the time to come and see spectacular birds in Loch Ness is in the winter.
Very cold though.
There's a number of hides about. You can get in, you can sort of put on your warm clothes. You can even take a wee flask of amber liquid with you and keep the whole place warmed up.
You know, I'd never done any kind of bird watching or anything like that, but I was in a hide a couple of days ago. We did a little film there, as you saw earlier, and a sense of tranquility comes over you. Even though you're watching just a wee duck, you know, looking for a bit of seaweed, and you say to yourself, when you're in there, you say, what am I doing here? And then suddenly, this kind of feeling comes over you.
You become at one with nature. I mean, this is what the whole thing's about. You get away from crowds, you become part of the environment.
Yeah. I'll never call a bird watcher a twitcher again. So what else about here is worthy of notice?
Well, there's almost everything. I mean, just around the building there are all sorts of martins nesting, and almost everywhere you look, there's something very, very special. You don't have to look for wildlife here. The wildlife looks for you.
Excuse me a minute. Why are you shouting over my shoulder? Oh. Owen, come on round here. Now, here's a man. Now, this is the salt of the earth here. This is a man who works in the soil, and you're a marine biologist. The two of you can meet, can't you? Because you're a man who's... fish is your life.
That's right. That's right.
And long may it be so. Thank you very much, Owen.
Thank you.
As I said, Gerry, if the lake is healthy, Owen can get a living out of it, and that's what I care about.
Okay, good man. Thank you, David. Right, now for a little more music from, well, the Munchies.
The Munchies.
Yep. Okay, thank you to the Munchies, thank you to the fish, thank you to the people, thank you to the centre, thank you to Loch Ness, and thank you to everybody here. We'll be in Port Stewart next week. Join us on Anderson on the Road. Goodbye.
The central issue of decommissioning remained unresolved.
It's a site of special scientific...